This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
Our guest today is a Golden Globe winning actress. She got her big break from news radio, but she became a household name with ER and Liar Liar. From the critically acclaimed The Affair and Christopher Nolan's classic Insomnia to Beautiful Boy, Primal Fear and The Iron Claw. We chat about why Al Pacino scared the shit out of her on set, why acting is sometimes lonely, working with Jim Carrey, and her latest movie and highly anticipated sequel, Twisters. Our guest today is actress Maura Tierney.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I've been a fan of your career. Watching your films since I was a little kid, and just this is a real honor. So thanks so much for taking the time.
Of course.
First of all, I want to
Okay.
ask, the new Twisters movie, I'm a big fan of the original. And when I heard they were making this, I was like, oh, I hope it's going to be good. I hope they're going to do something with it. I saw the trailer and I was like, this looks incredible.
What if we could prevent all this?
You think you can disrupt a tornado?
In theory. If we can get close enough.
Let's ride. You ever see anything like this?
Not like this.
Twisters, rated PG-13, in theaters July 19th.
How did you get involved in the project?
The director asked me to do it, offered me the job, and I was really interested in working with him. I appreciated his earlier work, so that's how I got involved. And it was a really sort of a quick gig. I flew down to Oklahoma City. I don't chase any twisters.
Oh, that's a shame.
I'm sort of, it is a shame. Yes, I'm the mom that encourages them to chase twisters. But it's a really good movie. I saw it. You're gonna love it.
Oh,
If
amazing.
you shot it, it's really beautifully shot. All the kids are really good. It's great. It's a super fun film.
Well, we had Sasha Lane on the podcast not too long ago as well, talking. She was chatting about it, and just seeing the effects and the scale in comparison to the original, how much things have moved on from then. I mean, that must have been, was it mid-90s? The other one, late 90s. To see the effects in this one, just it looks insane, and looks like it's got a big budget on it as well. So I'm very excited for it. Were you a fan of the original? Were you kind of aware of the original?
I mean, I must have seen it. Of course I saw it. I don't know if I was as huge a fan. I know that some people are super hardcore about that film, and their nostalgia for it. I don't know if I'm one of them. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like, oh, stoked to be sort of part of the remake for those reasons. Yeah.
Well, it's probably the best way to go in, though. You don't want to be too apprehensive and think, oh no, we're going to ruin a good thing, and just to kind of go and go, no, we're going to have fun and this is going to be great. It's probably a better way
I
to go
didn't
in.
think, Isaac could ruin it. I always think it's interesting when these independent or smaller scale filmmakers get these, gigantic, massive budget movies, because I'm always like, uh-oh. No, I mean, for the director, like there's a certain delicacy to what they're doing, and then they're, managing this wild sort of beast of a movie. But I think he did an amazing job.
Yeah, no, that's it. Actually, I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, to see, and it's great, as you say, that to be given that opportunity to go in and do what I presume has got a really big budget in comparison to what he's done in the past.
And we were shut down by the strike. Sorry, too. So I really felt for him. I mean, I of course supported my union, but they were about 70% finished, and the strike happened, and so everyone just had to go home and wait for several months to start shooting again. That was tough on him, but he did an amazing job.
Did you kind of start just after COVID and then hit, I guess, the beginning of the strike, and was it kind of sandwiched between?
Yeah. I had wrapped out before the strike, but that's when it was shooting.
I mean, that's the thing. It's been a bit of a nightmare, hasn't it, with various projects and things going under, and so many elements. I mean, obviously COVID, and then the strikes, and Obviously huge, big things happening in the world that are, more important than making movies essentially, but
Yeah,
crazy,
did you see
crazy
the
time.
U.S. presidential debate last night?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard all about it, and that,
All right,
yeah, terrifying.
spare yourself.
Yeah, I
But
heard
sorry,
that Joe Biden just kind of dropped the
God
ball.
bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough to watch.
Oh
But I'm
God.
keeping the faith. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's
But
such a
I
shame.
know we're not talking politics. It is. You mean to see the fall of the United States?
Yeah, it's
Democracy?
a real shame
Yeah,
to
it's
see
a
it all
real
just go.
shame.
No, I mean that whole situation is crazy. I just saw a few little clips and I just thought, oh my God.
And they probably made it. They pulled out the highlight. You can make it. It's like editing a movie. You can
Yeah,
use the
yeah,
best
yeah.
takes or the worst takes.
Of course.
But
And they can
yes,
move it
and
around a little bit as well.
yeah. But in answer to your question, yes, it was really. I mean, I think that was tough for everybody. I don't know if the industry's quite got itself back on its feet again entirely. But it was tough. Hopefully, I think it was worth it. But yeah, it's been a challenging time for especially television.
No, definitely. We have all kinds of guests on here. So people, directors, producers, casting directors, actors, and that time is something that we've obviously spoken about, and the ups and the downs, and having time off. But that was a real forced time off for everyone, which was because I'm an actor myself, so I'm usually out of work. But the fact that everyone was out of work was almost
Yeah.
like this novelty at first. It was like, oh, that bloke that's always working isn't working either. Did you kind of find was it a nice thing to have a little bit of time off? Because I'm guessing that you're always working, but how did you spend your days
I
in the pandemic?
yeah, I mean, I think I was really lucky in the pandemic, I was in New York. So it got really intense in the springtime in terms of
Mm,
um there was one of those portable morgue truck things up the block from me. It was really kind of overwhelming in
mm,
Manhattan, and the sirens constantly going. So I left and I went to Long Island. So I was lucky I was able to do that.
mm,
And once we got out of it, it was very overwhelmingly sad in New York and scary.
mm,
And then once we got onto Long Island for a minute, it's like, oh, this, not, it's not like I'm not working. It's like I can't. Like,
yeah, yeah,
there's a different feeling to that.
yeah.
But then it was just so tedious for such a long time. And then I did work during COVID, and it was just so stressful. And I worked
Mm.
twice during COVID,
Oh
and
wow,
it was
all the
just such a
masks and
bitch.
everything else.
Oh yeah, the masks and the testing, and we'd have to get there
Mm.
early at like 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning to test, and they had literally had PAs walking around with 6-foot sticks. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is true. And they'd come up to us, and if anybody was standing too close to each other, they'd move us, put the stick between us, and move us apart. They were like Nazi
Mad.
youth. It was so
Yeah.
like these young kids had all this power on set. It was really, and I
Really?
was working with Jeff Daniels, and like we had a scene where
Right.
we had to make out, and then they came back, and one of the COVID PAs said, "You guys are sitting too close together," and Jeff Daniels was like, "I just fucking kissed her." Like it
That is bizarre. That on American Dust.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called American Rust, but I'm gonna
Rust.
call it American Dust.
Sorry, I've written down the things that you're in, and American Rust. I'm dyslexic, so I've obviously just pressed
No,
B instead
you
of R.
don't.
I apologize. I think American Dust is a great name.
Well, it is American Dust now. The show is gone.
Well, I've got a
Yes,
question
that.
for you later, which is like, what's your most embarrassing moment? I've just had one of mine just there, so
No, no. It's.
I'll,
I find it extremely clever. I'm using it, but yeah. So COVID was difficult,
Mm,
but
mm,
then we got through it, and then the strike was difficult, and now hopefully, I feel like 2025 is going to be a I know it's a minute away, but hopefully we'll be reset by then.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed. It seems to hopefully be going, well, it won't go back to normal, but it feels like it's kind of, as you say, resetting a little bit. To go back in time and maybe to a simpler time in the film industry, I'd love to ask how it all began and like where your passion for performance and acting came from and who were your influences at the beginning?
Well, I really wanted to be a dancer. I studied dance when I was younger. That was my initial desire. And I studied dance in college for the first year, but I didn't really start soon enough. And I just realized I wasn't good enough to make a living as a dancer. I loved dancing, but and I had always performed in plays in high school, but I do remember I was home for my first year of college, and I watched the movie Frances with Jessica Lange, and I had done high school plays and plays like that, but I just remember thinking, if I could ever do that, like make someone feel so much watching a performance, like I was so deeply affected by her performance in that movie and then everything else. But I was sitting with my mom and I said, I think I want to go into the drama department. And
Oh,
so I
wow.
auditioned and got into it. So that's
Wow.
sort of what steered me there. But yeah, dancing was my first passion.
Wow. So that was a real moment though, watching that movie and
Really.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
That's
like I
that's
said,
great though to know exactly, straight away that is it. That's what I want to do.
I was totally, I was entranced. I fell in love with her. And I've gotten to meet her since. And I've never
Oh,
said that because I'm shy. I'm like,
um,
every time I'm like, you idiot, tell her. But
I'm
I
sure
get
she'd love
to,
that.
I'm too shy about it. I hopefully I'll be in her around her again. But yeah,
Yeah,
I know
no,
I will next time.
that's incredible. And
Hmm.
and from there, did you? I mean, I saw your first couple of movie like TV movies, but before you actually
Hmm.
got your first job, um, in terms of I don't know if it was a drama school, but the Circle in a Square Theatre School.
Yeah,
Was that right at the beginning that you went to
it
that?
was a part of NYU.
Uh,
So NYU, it was almost like what do you call it? Not conservatory, because that's like what Yale or Juilliard is. But I mean, my NYU was downtown. My classes were like up Midtown and Times Square. So the different studios were geographically in different places. So mine was in Circle in the Square, which
and
was a theater, but it was just our school.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that's kind of where obviously you got to actually put into practice the thing that you were like, I want to do that. Did it come easily? Was it something that you were like, yeah, this fits, this feels right? Or were you, as you say, you're shy? Was it kind of nerve-wracking at first?
It was nerve-wracking. I was not some big success in college. I didn't really perform in college. I didn't work it really until television.
Mm,
Until I came out to LA, which I don't know what would have happened. I think I had this thing in this idea in my head that in LA I could fool people,
mhm,
and in New York, not so much. So I came out to LA the summer after I graduated, just for the summer,
mm.
and then I ended up staying for like 18 years.
Oh, wow.
So I did fool people out here.
Yeah, it worked out well. I think that's a good way
Yes.
round though. You don't want to be too successful at college or at school and then not be. You did it the right way around, I feel like. You came out
Yes, I
and
think
did
so,
well.
because there were huge stars in undergrad drama, and I'm
Mm.
happy the way it worked out.
Yeah, no, you've done very very well for yourself, and you've done a real range of. I mean, the things that you've been in. I'll try and get the names right this time. American Dust is my favorite, obviously. That's the one I haven't seen, but I've seen a lot of your other shows and films, and I think the first thing I saw you in, and it's probably a really obvious one to say, so I apologize. But Liar Liar, when that was just like my favorite film when that came out. And
It's a
obviously
great film. Yeah.
it's incredible, and I remember thinking it was a real shift for Jim Carrey. Even I don't know how old I was at the time. I was probably 10, 11, and I remember thinking, oh, he's actually really acting in this. Because before that was kind of, Ace Ventura, The Mask, and he was amazing in those films, but this felt like it had the first dramatic kind of scenes. What was it like doing a film like that with someone who's obviously a huge star, but then you're a serious actress, and you're getting to sort of play with someone like that who's not really known for that. Was it
Yeah.
surprising?
Well, I was on a sitcom at the time, a comedy called News Radio. So,
Hmm.
um, you know what, though, there was a lot of pressure on him. I feel like he put pressure on himself because it was the first time he took on a role that uh had this emotional gravity to it. So I think that was palpable on set, honestly. I mean, it was a long time ago, a really long time ago, but I also feel like Cable Guy maybe had just come out. A film had just come out that
Yeah.
didn't do as well for him. So I think that was probably double pressure. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know. This is just my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, he worked really hard on the more emotional, less goofy kind of more of, I could feel it, him
Mm.
working for that, and it worked. I love that movie. It's
Yeah,
really funny.
incredible.
But this time it's different.
I see. And how is that?
Now I'm telling the truth.
And last night you weren't.
No.
Well, what were you doing?
Having sex.
Well, I hope that it was with someone very special.
What was the pressure like on you though? Like that you'd done Primal Fear at that point, and obviously a
Oh
lot of
gosh,
great
yeah.
TV,
Yeah.
and shared the screen with absolute juggernauts. But that
Yeah.
film was kind of, when that came out, it was massive. And I mean, maybe when you're making something, you don't really know it's going to be that. But what was the pressure like for you on that film?
No, we didn't know it was gonna. I mean, you know what? It wasn't a lot of pressure, I have to say, because I loved the director, Tom Shadyac. I don't know, he was just so much fun. We did a lot of takes, so that was hard. But I felt, I was essentially the straight man. It was exciting and thrilling to be in a movie with someone who was like, he was so famous. But I personally, as an actor, didn't feel pressure. I think because of the director, he was just like so much fun and goofy, and it didn't. Nothing felt. It's a movie. In the end, it's just a movie, right? So everybody should be having a good time. It's not. We're not trying to solve world peace.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I mean, yes, it felt like a big opportunity for sure, but on set, the day-to-day life, I didn't feel pressure.
Well, I skipped ahead a little bit there, but what was
Okay.
the connecting, going from, doing plays at school, and those first few jobs, and seeing like Student Exchange and Crossing the Mob. Did I get the
Yeah.
title
Oh
right?
gosh. Yeah, I didn't even. Yeah, that's funny. Now I'm trying to think of alternate titles for every single one, but I'll get there.
I'll
Yeah,
put them in at the
Crossing the
end.
Mob. I played Jason Bateman's, the unmarried mother of Jason Bateman's baby daddy. Oh gosh, that was so funny. That was a long time ago. It was like 24 or something. Playing 16.
Playing 16. I love that.
Mhm.
There's some films where you watch them, and I think particularly American movies, you're like, that guy's at least 35, but he's playing a student. So 24 is not too bad. It's pretty close to the age, really, in comparison. But
Yeah, maybe I was 23. I don't know.
that's not too bad. It's close enough.
Mm-mm.
But going and doing your first couple of jobs, and going through the audition process, do you remember your first few auditions, and the moment you got that first job?
I do. I was thinking about it the other day, actually, because things change. There's that kind of excitement of when you're getting auditions and then you're auditioning more. And it feels, that is um, that's not something I will know again.
Mm.
I don't think. I mean, even if I have to start, it's just different when you're younger. It's just a different thing. And auditioning sucks. But when you're just starting out, realizing you are auditioning and people want to see you again and again, and it's really, and being in California for the first time, it was a really unique moment in time. And I got a job, I will say, fairly quickly. So I recall those um times fondly, even though auditioning is a bitch. And right now, for people, all of this self-taping and you don't even get to go in, um, seems like it would be very challenging. So I do remember it, and it's I have a nostalgia for it. That's it's not overwhelming, but yeah,
That's the crazy
it was
thing.
exciting. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
The self
industry,
tape.
yeah, it's changed so much, hasn't it? Even since when I started, the self tape wasn't really a thing. Um, and now that's all there is really, unless you're, maybe a callback, they'll bring you back into the room, but even then it's changed quite a lot. And I mean, I presume that you don't really audition at all anymore. I presume it must be all
No,
offers
I mean
and
I would. I mean I would. I don't have an ego about that.
mm.
Um, especially if it's something that I haven't, no one's seen me done before. It's like good to audition for everybody to know if the person can do it.
Mm.
But that hasn't happened in a while because I have relationships with people in the
Yeah.
community at this point. Um, but when you self tape, do you have a friend that does it with you, or is it a system where you guys set up like I'll do yours if you do mine, like all consistently?
Yeah, well, it used to be my long-suffering girlfriend every time.
Oh no,
She was
okay.
just like, she'd be there with a glass of wine, slurping it in between her lines, and I'd be like, you can hear that, you can't do that. So I had to fire her and then get a friend who's an actor, and then actually I realized, oh, she was my girlfriend was great, but doing it with another actor, it's a different dynamic. And then obviously you can trade, you can go, if you help me with this tape, and vice versa.
Right.
So that's what I do now. So that I have like, 4 or 5 people that I have on rotation, and I'm sure I'm in rotation with, a load of other people to do tapes, but
Well, that's nice. That's a community too, which is
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
exactly. So it is nice because it gives you also an opportunity to catch up with those people that you might not have seen for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, the only downside is when you message a load of people and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I'm on set filming, I'm busy." You're like,
Oh, that's
everyone's
a bummer.
working. But to be honest, that doesn't usually happen. There's always someone else that's out of work, so it's all right. It's a quiet reminder every now and then to be like, I need to get a job. But yeah, no, it can be tough though. It can be tough, and it's this weird thing of like at one point everyone was saying you need to have a proper camera, you need to have this background,
Yeah.
and it was everyone was sort of competing for the technical side of things, and you kind of started to forget that you're there to put a performance across and forget about like all the technical side
Oh,
of
the
things.
other
But
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, it's tricky.
I guess, right. But you want them to see how you think you really look too, right? You want
Yeah, yeah. So
it seems it's like complicated. I feel for you guys.
it
Watch me
is
have to
tricky.
do one like tomorrow.
Yeah. You'll be setting up
Oh,
the light
those poor things. And I have to do it.
but yeah, no, it can be, and I miss going in, and I do occasionally get to
Hmm.
go in, and there's that rapport you get, and then the back and forth, and the nice sort of chat before you do the audition.
Hmm.
I miss all of that because I feel
Hmm.
like sometimes that's half the reason why you get the job. Um, People get the sense that
Agreed.
they want to work with you,
Hmm.
so I miss that. But other than that, you just got to push through and keep going and
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. But yeah. Anyway, back to you.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask if was there a moment where you say that you got a job and you started working quite quickly, which is great. Was there a
Mhm.
moment where you realized that there was like a kind of a moment where it clicked and you thought, holy shit, I can actually I'm going to be able to do this for a career and it's going to actually be sustainable? Was there a job
Um,
that kind of Made you realize that?
Probably, well, news radio. First of all, I love that show. We had so much fun. I think it's a really funny show, and I think it's probably holds up as a very funny show, even though it's
Mm.
25 years old. It was really unique
Mm.
because it was so odd. Like, I think it was the first of its kind to just do like joke, 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 joke. It was like as many jokes as we could have. There was not ever like a very special news radio or a Christmas news radio or Thanksgiving news. Like, and the cast was so talented. And I remember auditioning for that, and it was like in Midtown, in New York, and at the casting director, which I did go on tape for, but with the casting director, they sent the tape to LA. Well, no, she erased the tape, so I had to go back
Mm.
and do my audition again with her. And I was so bummed out because I had liked it, and they were lighting the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center, and it was like a nightmare of people. So I had to go back in, do it, and then they flew me out, and then there was three of us
Oh, wow.
there. Reading with Dave Foley, two or three other actresses, definitely two. So it was this weird situation where I was flown into LA, and the next day I go in, I do this chemistry read with Dave Foley for Jimmy Burrows and Paul Sims, and then I sit in the trailer and wait. And then the other girl does hers, and then someone just came into the trailer and was like, "You got the job." And I went directly to the table read, directly to set.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh,
That
wow.
doesn't happen. Like,
No, no. Wow, that's
it
incredible.
it really doesn't. So it was like I was like, wait a I didn't even have a moment to think about getting that job before I was doing the job.
Wow.
Literally reading the script, the table read, so in front of all the execs and everyone. So that was a lot. And then it got picked up, and then we had just a blast. We had so
Mm.
much fun.
And it ran for a long
So that
time as
felt like
well.
yeah, 5 seasons.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
so that felt like I was really working.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
and we weren't as successful, but I think we launched the same year as ER and Friends. And, it was time of must-see TV and Seinfeld. And,
Yeah.
we weren't as successful as any of that, of course, obviously, but we were at that party. So it
Yeah,
was
but
fun.
I think that show now though, I feel like people remember it fondly, and I always look back and think Joe Rogan was in that. That was weird.
I know.
Because you just think of him as a podcaster now. But yeah, to see him not only with hair but acting as well is a strange sensation. But one of those shows that I think does stand up to Friends, and it was such a, as you say, a great time for that kind of TV.
Yeah, like really like, millions and millions of people were watching television each week. Like it was just completely different model
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time.
I mean, before that as well, this I'm guessing that was kind of thinking about your credits. That was kind of the first, as you say, substantial long job. Like you've done,
Yeah.
the odd episode on Family Ties and Law and Order and things like that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
as you say, it must have been nice.
Obligatory Law and Order. Every actor has done a Law and Order.
Yeah.
But what were you saying? Sorry.
I
Must
was
be
just going to
nice.
say it must have been nice to, like, as you said, that was really quick off the bat, bang, you've got the job, and now I guess you wouldn't have known because you would have done the pilot and then wouldn't have known how long it was going to run, but to settle into a contract where you're like, oh, I'm here for a bit, it must have been nice to be like, this is a
It
solid
was
bit of
nice,
work.
and it was so funny. And so besides Phil, who, that was obviously a tragic event in the history of that show.
Mm.
But everybody was under 30. I always say this. All the writers, I mean, it was
Oh,
very
wow.
youthful. Yeah. And, I don't, anything went. It felt really, we just had really a lot of fun. So it was nice to have a steady gig with
Mm.
such funny people. It was great.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly.
Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/life in film, where you'll get episodes early and uncut, amongst other treats. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life in Film Pod, and find our video episodes on YouTube by searching Elliot James Langridge Life in Film. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9 to 5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone for me was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. And back to the show. The kind of difference between doing a show like that, sitcom, and then doing a movie, and do you have a preference between those two things? Sounds like you had a lot of fun on that, though, to be fair.
I did. I don't. My work has been mostly in television. I have worked in film, but mostly I'm more familiar with TV. It's fun to do a movie. I mean, I remember doing Primal Fear, which was Edward Norton's first job.
Yeah, wow.
Can you imagine?
Such a great film. And, yeah, brilliant performances.
It's amazing. And it's Richard Gere. And I was and also Fran McDormand, who I've worked with since in theater, it was great. And I had a smaller role, but I remember walking on set, towards set. We were working at Paramount, which is also one of my favorite lots out here. It feels very the most kind of old Hollywoody. And I was walking to set at Paramount behind Richard Gere. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm here. It felt, he was, is such a movie star, and so that was really fun. So that was really fun to leave news radio for a summer and go do that. It was great.
Yeah, and I love that film. I don't want to give away for anyone that hasn't seen it, but the twist is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, great performances, and yeah, brilliant. One of my favorites. Yeah, I guess when you're making a film like that as well, as you say, you were kind of like, wow, it's Richard Gere and everything else. And did you have an inkling that it was going to be good? I mean, the script's incredible, obviously.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, everybody was just so on point, and I have to say there was a level of real intelligence on the set. I don't even know how to explain this correctly, but Edward Norton is so incredibly smart, brainiac smart, and everyone was. Laura Linney was in it, quite well aware of what they were doing, and you could feel that. So there was also a bazillion agents coming around trying to meet with Edward Norton. So you just knew that it was going to be the script was great. I had a feeling it was going to be a good one.
Well, you say that you have done mainly TV, but there's some absolute bangers in there that are films as well. Some great films, and one that springs to mind, and it's a film that I feel like, because it's Christopher Nolan, he's done so many great films, it's one that isn't as remembered, but it's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, which Insomnia. It's such a great film, and the cast is ridiculous. I mean, it's an incredible movie. When you had the chance to read the script, and Memento had obviously come out not too long before that, was that a project that you were kind of like, wow, this is, I mean, it's a stupid question really, but with that cast and that director and everything else,
Yeah,
that
but
must have been exciting.
yes, it was. I mean, I also, it was weird because it was a little before Memento. I feel like I had done a movie that was at Sundance the same year as Memento, which I saw, which is obviously like, you know, when you see Memento, you're like, oh shit, well, that's a filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I maybe had met him. I'm not sure, in a much more casual way. It was a different dynamic. He wasn't this Chris Nolan who he is now. It was that long ago.
Mm.
He was also very approachable. Al Pacino kind of scared the shit out of me. Who I had all my scenes with. But
I
that
can
that movie
imagine,
was
yeah.
hard. I was sort of lonely. I was in Vancouver. It was
Mm,
it was sort of a toughie, but the movie's gorgeous. Yeah,
mm.
I'd like the movie too.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know if you're willing to talk about it, but you say you obviously lonely doing that film. I think that's a huge part of being an actor sometimes, though. When you go away and you have to, I mean, I've got very little experience in comparison to you, but I know that when I've had to go away somewhere that I'm not, I don't know the people there, or if maybe they're speaking a foreign language, it can kind of be isolating, in a way. Is that something that you kind of got used to over the years, or do you have to? I feel like I have to get into the job and be a couple of weeks in before I feel completely sort of more comfortable, you know?
Yeah, I do. uh, There's something sort of, I think, exciting about when you first arrive and you have your little apartment or your hotel. Like it's like you're making a new little home for yourself just to do
Yeah.
that work, right? You know. Um, but I do. I was in Oklahoma City to do Twisters, and I wasn't even. No, where was I? Oh, Baton Rouge
Mm.
for like 2 months to do Iron Claw,
Oh,
Iron
amazing film.
Paw, Iron Saw. I,
Great Iron Saw is
um,
amazing. I love it.
okay. That was really hard for me. I mean, it was really hard to like
Mm,
that city. I don't like being kind of in the middle of nowhere. It was like it's hard. I do think depending on where you are. I was in New Orleans to shoot Your Honor. That was
mm,
really fun.
yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it takes a few weeks to get new friends and know who to hang out with and stuff like
Mm,
that, or even just know where to go yourself. But I don't mind independently exploring a new place, but it can be hard. Like I said, Baton Rouge was not a lot of fun.
mm, mm. Yeah, no, I can imagine, especially if you're just, as you say, like the difference between something like New York and then if you're in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah,
it's a little bit
like
of a
Oklahoma City for Twisters is literally the middle of the United States. It freaked me out when I saw it on the map because I
You're like,
like
I'm
to be near
going
some
there.
kind of well, I like to be near some kind of water. It just
Mm,
feels like you're so landlocked. Like I don't know, there was this like panic of being so not
mm.
near any means of escape, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, of course. You
Yeah.
mentioned there briefly the Iron Claw.
Mm-hmm.
A24, I just every time I see A24 has
I
got a
know.
film coming out, I'm like, I need to go and see that. They're just incredible.
Yeah.
When you read, I mean, I after seeing that film, I had to then look into the real story and the family and everything else. And it's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely crazy. I watched a documentary that basically was like there was more to it that they didn't put in the film because it was too traumatic. I was just like, oh my God, it was worse than the film made out.
Yeah, it was. Actually,
When
it really was.
yeah, when
Another
you
one, they had another dead child. It's not
yeah, there
funny.
was another child, wasn't there? And
Yes.
I think the dad. Actually, I can't remember now. I get confused between the film and the documentary. Did the dad kill himself in the film, or was that in real life? I can't
I
remember.
don't I think the dad just died, actually.
Oh, did
I
he?
do remember that.
There was so
I
much
did do
trauma.
the
I just,
research. Well, because three of the children committed suicide.
yeah,
So that's
madness.
could be what it is. I don't know, but it was, yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, it's a
But I met
crazy
the
story.
brother, the
Oh,
remaining the one who Zach played, the
yeah,
oldest
yeah.
brother. He's the loveliest, sweetest man. I mean,
Mm,
that man's really like he's lost everyone,
yeah, no,
everyone in his family.
to go
So
through
he's an
that
older
and be like,
gentleman. Yeah,
That's
but he's
crazy.
very calm, very religious.
Mm.
That'll get, that I think happens to people that have so much tragedy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did you get involved with that project? How was that process?
I met with Sean Durkin again. I wanted to work with him. It was my desire was about the director. I really
Mm.
love Sean's movies. Are you familiar with his other movies?
I'm trying to think what other films he's done. What
The
has he done?
Nest, and he did Marcy. I always forget how it goes. Marcy, Mary, Marlene.
Ah, yes, I've seen that. I
Let's
did see that
Google
a
it.
while ago, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but he's a very interesting, talented filmmaker. So I wanted to work with him, and I
mm.
think the Iron Claw is quite beautifully shot.
Oh, yeah, incredible. And I mean the transformations that obviously Zac Efron and the other guys that played the brothers,
Yeah.
it's just insane. But I want to say that your character is just kind of feels like it holds the whole thing together. And I just thought your performance in that was incredible.
Oh, thanks.
Not to gush, sorry, I apologize. But no, really like, yeah, it hit me, that did. Incredible movie, absolutely incredible. Um, but to jump back, because I wanted to ask you actually about before we got into the Iron Claw, but you mentioned it, so I wanted to jump on it while you
hmm
mentioned it. ER obviously
hmm
like a huge show, and it was something that you actually mentioned earlier when you were doing news radio, that it was something you were aware of. It was obviously a big show, and it was something that
hmm
was doing incredibly well. To get how did you jump onto that show? Obviously, at the time, an offer, or how did that come about?
Yes, it was. It's funny because I had finished news radio and I was talking to my agents and they were like, well, what are you thinking about doing next? And I was like, well, if I do TV show, I'd want to do, I don't know if NYPD Blue was on at the time. I think this was 1999. But in my mind, I was thinking I wanted to do an hour drama that was, not a sitcom. Like,
Mm,
I remember thinking that's a show like that. And then ER called. So I went
perfect.
in and met with them. They kind of hired me, I think, yeah, without a real part in mind. It wasn't like, I mean, it was a nurse, but I think that Juliana was leaving. George
Mm,
Clooney had already left. Juliana was deciding to leave or not leave. And I feel like my character was a nurse who was in medical school. And I think that they were sort of, they were passing the torch along. And I think if Juliana had stayed, I might have been a med student. Because she left, I became a nurse. And the part I think grew because I had a fantastic relationship with the writers. It was really, and really because when I had Sally Field come on, so yes, it was an offer. And I
mm,
went there with no real clear intention of what was going to happen.
mm,
Um, I just knew I was going to be on the show. And then Sally Field came and played my mother. And then everything then it was like that character was, my character became really compelling because
mm.
of her character. Um,
What a
and then
legend.
I had a great time there. Yeah,
Mm,
it was really, it was fun. And that was that's again, I think the show was number 2 at the time,
mm.
but that meant that like 38 million people were watching it a week. So immediately
Mad.
after the first episode of that I was on air, the next day I noticed there was a difference walking down the street. It was weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's mad. And you really seem to, I've really noticed, because sometimes when actors go into a show that's so established and so popular, as you say, millions of people watched it, it can stop them from doing other jobs. But you really seem to be able to fit in the odd film here and there, other bits and bobs. So they were obviously allowing you to go off and do other things. You weren't tied into sort of, was there like a situation where it's like, we're going to film for this amount of time and then you've got this time to go off and do other things?
No, I think usually when we worked on our hiatus, which was generally 3 or 4 months long, or like August to maybe longer. It's
Mm,
almost like the school year. So
mm,
August to I don't know. No, we would start in the fall. Excuse me. So that we had the summer off in general. So people that were working, we just fit those projects in, or luckily they lined up. The longer, all of us were on ER, I think the less movie work we did. I do think that happened a little bit for a bunch of us, but I do think there's some issue about being so closely identified with such a popular show. But that wasn't anything anyone was complaining about,
Yeah. I mean, it would. I wouldn't complain. I feel like that's a great thing, and interesting that you say that you really noticed the difference walking down the street,
hmm
because that was after Liar Liar, wasn't it? Which
hmm But it's
huge, as we
different
said.
because of the TV shows in people's homes,
Yeah.
it's uh week after week. It's just more intimate, I think. And you go to see that movie once, or maybe some people go to see a movie twice, but I mean,
True.
week
Yeah.
after week after week, there's a deeper familiarity, I
Mm,
think.
mm. Well, for me personally, I rented Liar Liar like I don't know how many times until
Oh,
eventually
that's
my mum
true.
bought it. So, um, so it depends. It does depend. But
That's true. I forgot about the magic of VHS.
yeah, and Blockbusters, which I fondly missed.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
R.I.P.
was an event. It was an event to go down there on a Saturday and pick
Mhm.
out a movie. Um, to change direction completely as well. Do you have advice that you would give to, an actor trying to get their foot in the door, i.e., me, for maybe auditioning advice or just the keep going, it's going to get better. Any sort of advice that you would give to actors that are listening to this podcast?
Well, yes, I would say keep going. I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed to say I am not familiar with your work. Should I Google
Um,
you right now?
no, well, you can do that. Would be very flattering, but
Do you want to tell
don't
me
worry. My
what's
name,
your favorite job that you've had?
my oh, God, this is weird now. We're twisting it around. I'm like,
Well, I'm curious.
no, my probably the job that over in the States that would have the only one that probably came over to the States was a film called Northern Soul, which was a low budget British film, set in the north of England, and it was my first lead in a film. And again, I was playing like a 16-year-old, but I was 24.
Hmm
The magic of movies. And yeah, that film went on to be nominated for a BAFTA, and it did really well. And that was
Oh,
like the
great.
start of my film career. Before that, I'd only done TV. So that was kind of, how sometimes there's like you're either one or the other. That was the thing that
hmm
broke me into film. And then since then, I've just doing bits and bobs, and I've done a Netflix film and a few other bits, but it's been hard, obviously pandemic and then the strikes and everything else. So
Yeah.
last couple of years have been a real grind, but I'm still pushing, still going.
I do think it's going to get better for you guys. I really do. I think we're going to have a reset.
I hope so.
It's
Fingers
just taking
crossed.
longer than I think. Everybody came out of the strike and they didn't, everybody was expecting showbiz to have a plan, and it did not have a plan. So I do think it's going to get better
Yeah.
for you younger people. They're going to start making more stuff.
Mm.
Everyone just has to get less afraid, and a bunch of people probably should be fired. But that's my opinion.
I feel like that's coming. There's a few people on the chopping board right now. But
No,
yeah.
they just need to start over. It will get better. But I
Mm,
would say, if you like doing it, that's the most important thing,
mm,
because it is very hard. So if you don't love it, there's a lot of rejection.
mm,
And so the thing that I think was my saving grace, or that's very helpful when it's feeling bad, is I love what I do.
mm,
Because if you don't love it and you just sort of want to be famous or whatever, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of people saying no to you.
mm,
So if you love what you're doing, it's okay if they say no, because then there'll be another chance, to do it.
yeah.
That's the thing, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I feel like I've started with the time off, with all this stuff going on, I started to pivot and think, well, I'm gonna try write a script.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do a podcast, and then I get to talk to people
Mm-hmm.
like you, and I still feel connected even when I'm not working. So that was my
Mm-hmm.
coping mechanism in between work. Do you have any, like, I mean, I don't think you're probably out of work ever anymore, but do you
Oh,
remember?
I am.
But I but yeah, in those downtimes, do you have coping mechanisms, things that you do
No,
that
I don't.
no, 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 you just suffer, or you maybe do you enjoy a little bit of time off?
No, I've been saying I need a hobby for about 35 years. I don't really have a hobby. So no, I like to I like to write. I've started working on a project also, like during
Oh,
COVID,
cool.
because it was something to do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I don't really I do work with I have started working in 2018, work with the refugee community. I belong to this organization called the Campfire Project. And so
Oh,
in
cool.
2018, we went to Greece to a Syrian refugee camp. And I went back there like 3 or 4 more times. And we do arts-based therapy. So movement, dance, storytelling, um, music, drumming. Like it's sort of we deal with mostly young adults. And it's kind of a way to deal with trauma that's not head
Mm,
on. So it's like arts programming. So
mm.
we've done that again uh, in refugee populations. I've been to Moldova twice to work with the Ukrainian people. We went to Africa last year. These are things that I
Wow.
really look forward to. That isn't work. I mean, I really enjoy that work.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd do that more often. I'm, the organization is growing slowly, but I do
That's
that in my
incredible.
spare time. Yeah, it once I'm just feel I hope hopefully that will just continue forever, and I'll be able to take up more chunks of my time doing that work. I
Mm.
really, I really enjoy it.
Well, you say you don't have a hobby, but that sounds like a hell of a hobby, to be fair. That
Yeah,
sounds that's a
that's
good one. That is
just
a
a
good one.
little passion. Yeah,
Yeah. You're very humble about it. You're like, no, I don't really, but I do this occasionally.
but
That's amazing.
that's once a year, really. So
Mm.
it's not. We have to it requires a lot of planning,
Yeah.
but I do like that work.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's incredible. It may be once a year, but you go big once a year. That's the main thing. You're helping people, and that's incredible. You're doing it you're in a position that you can do that. And
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
real um it's a lot an experience. It's
Mm, mm.
very moving experience. Yeah.
To be honest, that's probably the best point to wrap up, but I would like to ruin it all and ask you one last question. Um, do you have a most embarrassing moment? I mean, mine was at the beginning of this call when I called your show American Dust. Um,
No, dude, it was the funniest thing ever. I can't wait to talk to my publicist about it.
I instantly just blame my dyslexia. Did you see that? Just straight to it. I'm dyslexic.
Oh,
It's not a great excuse
oh,
though, is
that's
it? That's
convenient.
yeah, yeah.
But a D doesn't even look
I
like an
know. I
R.
don't even know how it
What are you
happened.
talking
I
about?
think the autocorrect I'll also blame.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was a show I haven't
Um,
seen. I'm gonna admit that, and I will look into
blame my people.
it.
Say they wrote it down wrong for you.
Exactly, exactly.
Most embarrassing moments, yeah.
Oh, a most embarrassing. I'm sure there's been a million. Oh, I don't know. There's so many. Like acting, I was call it sometimes a parade of shame. Like you're
Yeah.
like putting yourself on the line a lot,
Mm,
for and I'm, as I say, kind of a shy person. So I would just sort of say, in general, when you put yourself out there, sometimes you'll finish and I'll be like, oh God, what did I just do? Like, but it's the nature of the job, right? You have to be willing to risk looking goofy or
mm.
failing. But I don't know if I can think of one thing in particular.
The whole
Um
career is just,
the whole
embarrassment after
yeah,
embarrassment
no, but
after.
you just have to. I think a lot of times on set, it can feel like that, but that can sometimes mean you did a good job.
Mm, mm.
Just because you're feeling like, oh my God, that just happened. It might mean it was really good
Yeah.
because you're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I'll have to work on one single anecdote for that.
if you can't think of one, I'll give you one because I feel like I'm always asking people to tell their embarrassing stories, but I am never giving the audience one. So
Okay.
I'll give you a little one, a quick one.
Okay.
Just came to mind, and I don't know if it's yeah, I don't even know if it's funny. It's just sad, I think, but um, I
Okay.
was I used to go to it was like a kind of weekly drama. It's kind of like a little drama school that you'd go when you're like, 12 years old.
Well,
On
this
Friday
doesn't
night.
count if you're 12, but go on.
Well, it really doesn't actually when you see what happened because it kind of it's
Okay.
natural behavior. But it was it was the first time I ever went. And after this time, it was surprising I ever went back, but I did. I went for years after that, and I loved it. So I'm glad that I pushed through. But on the first night that I went there, what would happen is I think I must have been a little bit younger than 12 because my mom was there watching like the lesson to kind of see if it worked and if I liked it or whatever. And so there was a few other parents with their kids having their first lesson as well. And I remember nothing about the first lesson. All I remember is this moment where we're all sitting on a wooden floor, cross-legged, and the teacher was talking about something, and there was a silence. And being a young boy, I basically I had a fart coming, and I thought it was a silent one, and I tried to
Misjudged. Oh no.
I misjudged, and because it was on the wooden floor, it really reverberated around the room. And I just remember the silence, the fart, and then just looking at my mum, and my mum just being like,
Oh no.
and I remember just thinking, I just want to crawl up and die and like disappear.
Yeah, that's a
And
tough one.
it was bad.
That's good you went back.
Yeah, I went
That would be
back
hard
and
to
no shame
recover
clearly.
from.
And I think that's how I started my career that way, and I feel like I've carried on that way. No shame, just got to push through. I
That's
did
what I was saying. Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. So that was another embarrassing moment other than getting the name of your show wrong. But yeah, I think
It's
probably
totally
a good
okay.
way to end. But thank you so
Okay.
much for taking the time, and I just
Sure.
really
Thank you.
appreciate
Nice
it.
meeting you.
Yeah, lovely to meet
Yeah,
you, and all the best with Twisters. I mean, I'll be the first one to be there on the day it comes out, so looking
it's
forward
great.
to it.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you to our guest Maura and to her team at the Initiative Group. As always, thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp.